hypothesis is an expectation, or it is an imagination, or it's a prediction? Anyone? What do you think? What is all about hypothesis? What do you understand by this particular term called hypothesis?
Prediction, sir.
It's a prediction.
Because some logic is there. Based on that
Yeah.
logic, it may be
Right.
like
So it's a prediction.
yes,
Okay.
prediction.
But as per the research states, hypothesis is the expectation or imagination or prediction of the researcher regarding the relationship between independent and dependent variables. So here the term comes called independent and dependent variables. Now, as very clearly stated by my previous speaker, so I have stated that regarding data, right? So how the data is affecting in a particular field of research. Now, when we say that we are in a field of research, we deal with data. Now, you all know that there is a very common term that states uh, that survival of the fittest by Sir Charles Darwin. But in the current day world, we are living in such a time where this theory has shifted itself and converted into the survival of technologically fittest. So all the theories that were previously established now reframing, and they are retaining themselves to find out what is the process to achieve a particular part in the research. So in your research, you'll be seen by a lot of analytics, by my next speakers. So where you will find that research is not only dealing with uh, some basic formats of social sciences, but here the application part of sciences is also coming up. So an hypothesis is a preliminary or tentative explanation of the researcher that what the research considers of the outcome of an investigation will be. So it is an informed or educated guess. Now, sometimes we guess and sometimes we not guess. Now, when this term hypothesis comes, let me share with you that it deals with something which is called Indian law, Indian Penal Code. Now, as per IPC, Indian Penal Code, no one is a criminal until and unless we prove them as a criminal. So, same happened for the hypothesis. We first take into notion something, and then we need to prove that particular notion. Then only our formulation part of hypothesis will be proper. Otherwise, it can't be the proper one. So it indicates the expectation of the researcher regarding certain variables. So it indicates towards certain variables. Now, when we start a research, how we start a research? We start it with, you'll see, your guides will definitely suggest you to start with exhaustive literature survey. Now, from that exhaustive literature survey, we try to find out the variables which are the best suit for our objective of that particular research area, which is the best suit for the problem identification. And as part of that problem identification, we try to find out some uh, problem notion or the questions that comes up automatically. And from that question, what we devise is the objectives of the study. Now, when we devise that particular objective of the study, I tell you, very pertinent one. Suppose a research title speaks about a customer satisfaction or a customer's perception on, say, service deliverable of a particular, say, of aviation industry. Suppose for an aviation industry. Now, when you find out what is the customer's perception of the satisfaction level, we take some sort of scaling, and we try to frame that as part that what are the factors that are affecting the customers towards the service deliverables of the aviation industry. Now, when we do so, we are in a position to identify what are the factors that are affecting. But here comes the question that there can be multiple factors, and those multiple factors can crop up in to something which are the sub factors. Now, are those sub-factors or complex factors are affecting the major factor which is ultimately creating impact on something which is, you know, the service deliverables of the admission industry. So that point is stating over here that a research is regarding certain variables. So are my variables are the best fit to explain or address the problem in a writer path? So it is the most specific way in which an answer to a problem is given. So my what are the my problems that I have already identified? Are they stated in a proper manner? Are it addressing to solve in a proper way? So coming to the next is what is hypothesis? I have already stated that hypothesis is a statement about a population that is written, but it's more about an expectation, imagination, or the prediction. It's a conglomeration of all this stuff that depicts the hypothesis in a clearer manner. Coming to the next, the difference between a hypothesis and a problem. This is a major part of the research where we find it is a pertinent, area because a lot of research scholars used to can't used to differentiate between a problem and a hypothesis. So a problem always contribute towards the body of the knowledge, but hypothesis also deliver the same knowledge in the contribution of the particular theory. But a problem identification is something different from a hypothesis. The problem is formulated on a particular form of question. So it is served as the basis of the origin from which a hypothesis is derived. It is derived from a particular hypothesis already present on it. From that, the basic problem is derived, but hypothesis is already present over there. So hypothesis always suggests a solution to the problem. So it doesn't refute to the problem, rather it suggests a pertinent solution to the problem. So a problem which may be a question. When we write a research paper or a research, some natural question arises from the above literature survey or above introduction. Now that is a problem area from where we frame our research gap. So what is gap? Which we find and which we expected. So which we expected minus which we find something which is gap. So that is a research gap. So which cannot be directly tested. So you can't directly test a particular problem area, a particular question. Whereas a hypothesis can be tested or verified. Now, why hypothesis is tested or verified? Hypothesis tested or verified to give a pertinent answer. Now, if I ask you a very simple question, that what does 2 plus 2 equals to? Anyone? What is 2 plus 2? Sorry, hello. What is 2 plus 2?
4, sir.
Yeah, we all know it is 4. But if 2 plus 2 equals to 5, if I state that 2 plus 2 equals to 5, then I need to prove that 2 plus 2 equals to 5. So here is something which need to be tested. So a problem or a question cannot be directly tested, but hypothesis can be directly tested. So coming to the next part is that when is an hypothesis formulated? So hypothesis is formulated after the problem has been stated. So literature study has been concluded. So we can only it is stated over here that after literature study we can conclude hypothesis, which is not very true also every time. Even after the framing of the objective, we can frame our hypothesis, because it's not only the variables part or not only the part that we can identify from the literature survey, but the variables that we identify from the literature survey, along with some of the part which we can conclude even after the research gap, even after framing our objective, then only we are in a position to frame the hypothesis. So it is formulated when the researcher is totally aware about the theoretical and empirical background of the problem. Yes. Because until and unless you know how to solve your objective, you are not in the position to frame the hypothesis. Now, as I have given the example of the factor, what are the factors that could affect the service deliverables. Similarly, there can be, various other relationships between the two variables, which we termed it as an association between the two variables, which can relate to the pertinent dependent, which is directly affecting the dependent variable. So, how we are in a position in, in establishing the background against the problem or theoretical problem, that plays also a very important role in the formulation of the hypothesis. So, what are the empiricals that we'll be using? Say, suppose when we frame our objective like factors, what are the various factors we have in our mind that we can use a factor analysis or dimension reduction process where we can go for EFA, exploratory factor analysis, to find out what are the factors which are affecting my dependent variable. Similarly, after doing EFA, exploratory factor analysis, a question comes: is that a sufficient enough to to draw a conclusion that those factors are only factors which are affecting the dependent variable? No, there can be a multiple factors that I am stating earlier, the sub factors. So to identify sub factors, we often use confirmatory factor analysis, CFA, or something called structured equation modeling, where to understand that how we those sub factors are affecting the dependent variable. So in that case, we use empirics. So until and unless this thing comes in my mind, and for the impact study or for the association test, we use regression analysis to find out the impact. Now, when we use a regression, then the question again comes whether it will be a linear regression or it will be a multiple linear regression or it will be a multiple regression. So, if we use a multiple regression, then whether ANOVA will stand or MANOVA will stand. So, to understand all this empirics, it should be clear in our mind to formulate something which is called hypothesis. Until and unless these empirics are clear in our mind through the objective, it is not impossible, nearly impossible to frame the hypothesis of this study. Coming to next is what are the purpose and function of a hypothesis? Now, you see, when we speak about the purpose or function of an hypothesis, we always find out the relationships. Whether is there any relationship states between the variables or it doesn't states. Simultaneously, it also furnishes the researcher that having a background of knowledge to enable him or her to suggestion in order to extend the existing knowledge. Now, always remember, to do any research, to frame any hypothesis of that particular problem, the domain knowledge plays a very, very important role, which is very clear. That to formulate a particular hypothesis, it will only happen if you have a proper domain knowledge and the right direction towards your investigation. Now, what does this mean by the right direction towards an investigation in the field of research? Now, when we start our research journey, it is a very common issue that we always try to find out from the population what could be the proper sample which is going to going to be a right standpoint to defend my population or can define my population well. But before going to going to a detailed study, it is always suggested to go for a pilot study. Now, when we go for a pilot study, what type of the investigation that need to be catered out, that plays a very important role, I think. So, in the next phase, the investigation furnishes the continuity of the examination of the problem. So when we find out the investigation of the particular problem, we need to examine the problem very well to understand whether it is a particular pertinent part or not of the particular research. Because at the end of the day, what you think, what is research all about? It is researching, I understand. But after doing the research, what it brings in, or what is the advantage after completing a particular research? Anyone, apart from doing a PhD?
We look at the problem with an objectivity, sir.
So
In research.
definitely you are right. We look to the objective, but my question is, suppose you are doing a particular research, right? Apart from doing PhD, you are doing a particular research, and what will be the outcome of that research? Why you do that research?
We are
Why you
adding
doing
to the
that?
body of knowledge, sir.
We are adding on the body of knowledge. Yes, very true. Amritam to Vidya, which means knowledge is nectar. Yeah, definitely we are adding something to the knowledge. But apart from that, what we are bringing to the society? So until and unless we are adding to the knowledge is good, we are bringing some sort of, we are at the bridge between the knowledge and the gap area. That is good. But until and unless we can cater to the realistic problem of the society, I think that is the major need of the research.
So
Why?
we can also say like we are bringing some facts in front of the
Yes,
people.
ma'am, you are bringing the facts, but whether that facts is catering to the solution of the problem of the society. Over here in my PPT, you will find it is written furnishes continuity to the examination of the problem. So you are furnishing the examination of the problem, but what solution you are giving back in your research? That is what you are adding to the society, and it is highly required in today's life, because until and unless you are adding something to the society, you are bringing something very, change in the pattern. Otherwise, it is not in a position to cater the problem solution. So examination of the problem is
Sir, it is added the existing knowledge. It is added some value for existing knowledge.
definitely, sir. Sir, currently, I think, let me share with you. I am currently doing, a research in the field of diabetes, right?
Yes,
So
sir.
in the field of diabetes, I'm doing a research where we are predicting that what could be the probable chances of, say the malignity of a particular disease. So how we can control it, right? Suppose if somebody is suffering from, say, sugar, that is diabetes, then there's a high chance that they will also suffer from some malignant problem like CKD, like chronic kidney disease, CLD, chronic liver disease. So, but this is my research. I'm adding facts that if a problem, if a person is, suffering from diabetes, can face a problem of CKD. But what is the solution? That if a person, suppose 20% of the people are suffering from this particular problem, so what could be the probable solution I'm bringing in my research? That plays a major important role. So from now onwards, keep in mind when you do a research paper, or when you do a research, say for a PhD or anything for your higher study, always keep in your mind, bring or add something new from the existing one, which could change the pattern of the field
Yes.
of study. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes.
So next comes the characteristics of an hypothesis. So it should have elucidating power. Now, what does this elucidating power means? Your hypothesis will be such that it can explain your existing problem very well. So we say now that it must not be only a statement. It must a statement which can, which can very vividly explain your problem very well. Otherwise, there is no use of using this particular term of hypothesis. It should strive to furnish an acceptable explanation of the phenomenon. So it should be such that it should accept the explanation of the phenomenon. Now, I how this happens. I hope the people over here all are faculty members in the fraternity of various subjects. Now, the persons who are from management can answer this question very well. We all study something called marketing, and in marketing, there is a marketing mix, right? Where we say four P's of marketing. Now, what is this four P's of marketing? Product, price, place, promotion, right? Now, this is the acceptable phenomena which is already existing. But can you tell me any of the business in current day, is today, today is a 7 4 2023. If somebody want to go for a startup or to go for a business development on 7 4 2023, is this four P's are sufficient enough to start their business? Please explain.
No, sir.
Why? Then what could be the one apart from these seven P's? Because these seven P's are termed as one of the most high strategic advantage of doing marketing. So, say for a marketing advisor or a marketing consultant, what phenomena they should follow? What do you think?
Sir, that can be maybe price strategy. They can be follow price strategy. They can be for the positioning, price,
Yeah, whatever
place.
you are saying, sir, it is there in the four P's. But the current day scenario doesn't speak about four P's because
No,
it
no,
became the obsolete. So current day scenario speaks about the four E's. Now there is someone who identified these four E's of marketing, which is currently happening in this 7 4 2023. So it is a part of the marketing. It's a part of the digital marketing. It's a part of the social media marketing. It's a part of the normal marketing also. So the four E's of marketing is something which is playing a role. So somebody have come out. Now, when we say that a person who have added this to the fraternity of knowledge, but came up with something which is very unique in nature, right? So this is something which should be verifiable. Now, when I am saying 4Ps, it is already verified. But when I'm saying 4Es, whether it is verified or not, we need to check because that is the facts of figures. So during your research, whatever facts or figures you gain, you need to understand that it should be verifiable. You must verify the same in a proper manner until and unless you can identify that whether it is running in the same path or not. Next is it must be formulated in simple and understandable terms. You know, whenever you go for research stuff, you'll see that if somebody is doing a if somebody is a research scholar, he will be knowing that during his research journey, he need to always need to defend his research. We need to defend our research everywhere. Even in the conferences when we present paper, we need to defend our paper. So whatever terms you use in your research paper, along with the hypothesis also, don't use jargons, use some understandable terms. So when we formulate hypotheses, we use very simple terminologies so that the people who is listening to us could understand it in a proper manner. So it should also correspond with existing knowledge. So this must not happen that when you are doing a research, it must cater or address the problem which is already existing in nature. It must not address the problem which might be coming in the future or which might be have already done. So your hypothesis is something which is addressing the proper problem of your research, but which is very much in the existing knowledge. It must not something from the something from the future or something from the past. Now comes to the types of hypothesis. Now this is a very common part. It's a theoretical part. So we all know that the types of hypothesis starts with a descriptive hypothesis. Now this descriptive hypothesis is a proposition that describes the characteristics such as size or distribution of a variable. The variable may be an object, person, organization, etc. Now, the example is also given over here. The rate of unemployment among arts graduates is higher than that of commerce graduates. Educational system is not oriented to human resource needs of the country. Now, this is a descriptive hypothesis. Now, I give you a problem. You tell me whether it's what type of hypothesis you will use. Okay, suppose the film industry. Currently, the Bollywood industry is not doing well. This is a problem. Now, say suppose for Red Chili's entertainment, they are becoming, they are facing a lot of challenges in sustaining their business. So, what could be the probable cause, and what type of hypothesis you can frame from this particular problem? Tell me. Anyone? Bollywood industry is facing a lot of problem to run their businesses. So, what could be the probable problems, and what could be the probable variables, and how they can come up with the probable solution? What?
So one variable can be quality, sir. Quality of movies.
Okay, one is quality. So I get this as a term that one variable of this particular problem is a quality. Second,
Yes. Quality.
Revenue. Revenue.
revenue. Yeah, very good. Revenue can also be a problem. Anything else? Anything else? High competition.
Acceptability of the contents.
Acceptability of their contents. Okay, it also comes towards the promotional tool. Yeah, yeah. Promotion. Apart from that,
Social networking.
they are very much into social networks. So social networking is not an issue. Something more?
Social equilibrium, equilibrium and social dimension of society.
Social dimension of the society. Something when I have uttered you now, this four E's. In this four E's, there is something called evangelism. What is that evangelism? You know, the last one, which is a part of the promotion. Evangelism is a word of mouth plus social media. Now, when we speak evangelism, is a social media. Now there is a model in also in which we use it in research as well as in the consumer behavior also. It is a black box model, something which is there, which is not known by us, and that not known part is nothing but something which is called attitude. Now see, after a long term when Shah Rukh Khan came with his movie called Pathan, why Pathan makes so much of noises apart from all those negative sides? Because it carried something called attitude. Now, if you see all these South movies of Allu Arjun, of Junior NTR, RRR, you'll see they are having only single stuff that is called something which is called attitude. Now, this is a variable which is playing a massive role along with content, along with quality, along with every stuff. So the way you have found the various variables, this is called descriptive hypothesis. Generally, descriptive hypothesis is taken into account when go first previously we go for doing our questionnaire. How we frame questionnaire? Anybody? Anyone? Any idea? How we frame questionnaire?
Based on the objectives.
Based on objectives, yeah. Good. But how we frame questionnaires? Suppose if your guide asks you to frame a questionnaire, how you will frame a question?
So, for example, if I want to frame the question for personal acquisition, I'll take a scale. One for aggressiveness.
Okay.
Seven for highest aggressiveness.
Okay.
And
Anyone
I'll
else?
frame questions such that I am very aggressive sometimes.
Okay.
And yeah, some questions like I'm I'll beat others when I'm angry.
Okay.
All this table
Anyone else?
by listing all the questions relevant to a particular subject of inquiry.
Okay. Answer me a single star. Stop. Just a minute. I stop here so that I get.
So based on the information that
Yeah.
want to
Answer me a single star.
So that it leads us to a conclusion of our objective.
Okay. Apart from that. Now, whatever you all are saying, I'm taking into account. Yeah, Javed, I want to say something here, Javed.
The depends
Javed, anything? Yeah, Subhash, yes. Okay, now tell me, uh, my guide have asked me to frame a questionnaire. I am framing a questionnaire. Now, while framing a particular questionnaire, specify the information. Yes, Priyanka, you are right, specifying the information needed, but how? I identify the variables from the literature survey, right? So
right.
from the literature survey, I identify some of the variables. Now my questionnaire demands, now my research demands something which is called scales. Now I take the scales and I frame the questions. Right? Now tell me, my research is a proper research or it's not a proper research? I took the variables from the literature survey, and I have also taken the scale which is already mentioned over there. So is I am doing a good research? Is my research is okay? What do you think?
With reduction, it's okay, sir, because you are converting into numbers. The variables are converted to numbers, and on those numbers you are doing statistical analysis. So I think this is a good approach.
Sorry, sir. Whatever we are doing is not at all a research. This is the problem with all the research scholars. Why? When you are taking something from someone, suppose I am taking a scale which is mentioned previously. I am taking. Now, suppose it is mentioned by Parshuraman and Berry et al. The subscale scale, service quality parameters.
Service part, yes.
Yes. So, subscale scale, which is called Ritter scale, RATER, Ritter scale. So, if we are taking a Ritter scale, whose from whose viewpoint he made the Ritter? From his viewpoint. Don't you think that my research is a biased research? Because I'm taking this particular dimension. If I'm taking some variables from my literature survey, some people have stated something and I am framing that particular variable from the literature survey. So don't you think that it is a biased one? Because I'm taking somebody else's perception and I'm putting that in my research. This is the problem while we go for framing of our hypothesis also. You know why? Because we get generally which is already existed and we try to implement that into our research work. So how we can do it? How we can frame the questions? Any idea? We will go to find something which is called keyword search. Now, what is this keyword search? We go and find out the maximum ordering variables from the focus group interviews. So, for focus group interviews, will be taking some of the keywords, and we need to apply those keywords into our research to identify, to make it unbiased. Yes, Javed Ali, you want to say something? Yes, Javed, you can go ahead. You are mute. Okay. Yeah. So if we want to do the research in a proper manner, we need to identify the variables first and make them a proper one. That's why in the research we do something which is called reliability check of the data, which is called Cronbach alpha check. Why we used to do the Cronbach alpha? To understand the proper pattern of the research, whether my research is going on perfectly for doing the analysis or not. That's why we should go for the proper research part. So that presentation. So second comes the relational hypothesis. So in idea, what's a relational hypothesis? These are basically nothing but the proportions which describe the relationship between two animals. So it is a relationship like families with higher income spend more for recreation. Upper class people have fewer children than lower class people. So it's a relation between some like you know uh, often we say when we understand the differences between the uh, the dependent variable and independent. So a dependent variable can be a person, a disease, suppose a cancer, lung cancer is a dependent variable. What is independent variable? Smoking is an independent variable. So smoking causes cancer. So that becomes the independent variable because there can be a numerous level of independent variable which affects a dependent variable. And what we do as a researcher, we try to find out whether there is any relationship between the two variables. So in this way, the relational hypothesis framed that whether there is any relational part is present or not. If at all present, then what type of relation goes on. Next, the causal hypothesis. The causal hypothesis always talk about cause and effect. So the first variable is independent variable and that is dependent variable. So is there is any cause and effect